my name's Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today we are here to talk about our predictions for Book of the Month for August 2023. I love doing this video. I have so much fun every single month. I actually have a second video coming out a little bit later this month that's going to analyze my first 6 months predicting Book of the Month and what my success rate is. So stay tuned if you're interested in seeing that. That said, let's go ahead and get into what I'm thinking might show up in the Book of the Month boxes for August. Now, I am hoping that August is going to be a much better month because let me be real, I was really disappointed with the selections for July. I did pick out one book from the main selections, but the rest of the books that I picked out were books that I had on my backlist that I've been wanting to order for a while. So we'll see. It was kind of a bummer not being that excited about the picks this month. So hopefully next month will be a little bit more exciting. So as per usual, we're going to start with the horror/thriller category, and we have a couple repeat authors this month. First up, we have None of This Is True by Jewell. This currently has a 4.45 rating on Goodreads and just over 2,000 ratings so far. Josie and Alex cross paths while they're both out celebrating their 45th birthday. Turns out that they're actually birthday twins, and Josie is super interested in Alex and the true crime podcast that she hosts. Josie is so interested, in fact, that she actually offers herself up as somebody that could be featured on the podcast. But it turns out that Josie is hiding some really dark secrets that put Alex at danger. And Alex has one major question: who is Josie really? So we're starting out with one of the more obvious picks for the month, and that is Jewell. Jewell has been featured several times before on Book of the Month. Her books always seem to do really well. She's a very popular author. I would not be surprised to see her show up at least as an add-on. My second option for the horror genre is Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This currently has a 4.31 rating on Goodreads and about 99 ratings so far. This is set in 1840s in northern Mexico. We have a main character named Nena who knows a thing or two about monsters. Her family ranch has been threatened by Anglo settlers from the north, but something more sinister lurks near the ranch at night, draining men of their blood and leaving them for dead. Isabel Cañas is the author of The Hacienda, which was picked by Book of the Month previously, so she would be a repeat author. I feel like The Hacienda did really well. It was pretty popular in the month that it was selected. I feel like Book of the Month really likes this kind of creepy horror vibe, and I would love to see them pick this book up. And then we have The Hurricane Blonde by Halley Sutton. This currently has a 4.19 and about 83 ratings on Goodreads so far. Selma Lowe is a child of Hollywood royalty and a once promising child actor, but now she's working as a tour guide for a tour that features the scenes of grisly Hollywood murders and deaths. Selma's own sister Tawny was brutally murdered and the case was left unsolved, something that haunts Selma to this day. I picked this book because this is a little bit of a lesser known author. I like that this has a Hollywood vibe. I think that the exploration of stardom and Hollywood murders and all of that is something that really fits with Book of the Month's vibe. I could see this being a popular pick if they do pick it up. Next up, we're going to jump into the historical fiction category. We have a handful of selections. First up, we have Learned by Heart by Emma Donoghue. This currently has a 3.92 and about 90 ratings on Goodreads so far. I actually have an ARC of this one, and I'm so excited to dive into it. This book follows Eliza, an orphan heiress who, at the age of 6, is sent from Britain to India. At the age of 14, she meets a troublesome but brilliant tomboy named Anne at the Manor School for Young Ladies in York in 1805. They end up falling secretly and dangerously in love. And this book is actually based on Anne's 5 million word secret journal about the relationship. So I picked this book for a variety of reasons. First of all, Emma Donoghue would be a repeat author. I love her writing style, and I think that the topic of this book sounds super interesting. I love that it's based on somebody's actual journals, and I can't wait to get into this one. Then we have The President's Wife by Tracey Enerson Wood. This currently has a 3.70 and about 64 ratings on Goodreads so far. This book is going to follow Edith Willing, who is a widowed heiress and is really flattered when the President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, starts courting her. They eventually get married, and Edith is thrust into a completely different role than her usual. She accompanies Woodrow Wilson to peace talks at the end of World War I, and when his health begins to fail, she quietly steps in and assumes the role of negotiator in order to keep his progress and his reputation intact. I think that this sounds fascinating. I love learning about women throughout history who have stepped up to the challenges that they faced, who have done things that were unexpected of them at the time. This is right up my alley, and I feel like this is right up the book of the month alley too. I think that historically they have featured a lot of World War II historical fiction, so I would love to see them feature something that's about a different portion of history, one that's maybe a little bit lesser known, but still about a courageous, badass woman making powerful decisions. And then we have California Golden by Melanie Benjamin. This currently has a 3.82 and about 165 ratings on Goodreads so far. Now, this book is set in Southern California during the 1960s and follows the Donnelly family. In particular, we have the Donnelly sisters, Ginger and Mindy, and they have grown up in a kind of an unconventional lifestyle. Their mom is a surfer and out partying at night. She's kind of emotionally unavailable. In a time when women are expected to be mothers and housewives, all three of the Donnelly women go their own ways, whether it be surfing or drugs and cults. I picked this because it's got that 1960s into the 1970s vibe, surf culture, Southern California, drugs, cults, all things that have been kind of popular through some of the Book of the Month books. In some ways, this is kind of reminding me a bit of Daisy Jones and the Six, kind of that same era, some similar vibes there. So I'm thinking that this might be a pick just for that reason. Now let's talk about romance, typically the hardest category for me, but this month I actually feel like I've picked a handful of books that I know a little bit about the authors or a little bit about the books themselves, and so maybe I have a little bit more of an opinion than usual. My first romance pick is going to be Kiss the Girl by Zoraida Cordova. This currently has a 4.19 and about 102 ratings on Goodreads so far. This book features a main character named Ariel Del Mar, and she has been famous since she was a young child. Her and her sisters were part of a worldwide phenomenon of a band, but now the band is breaking up and Ariel is looking for a break. She wants to just relax. But her father, the head of a major music label, has other plans. He wants to make her a solo star. When Ariel heads to a concert with friends, she ends up meeting Eric, the lead singer of an up-and-coming band. He doesn't have any clue who she is, and he unknowingly invites her along to join him on the road for his first tour. She agrees and takes life into her own hands. I think this sounds so cute. So first of all, Zoraida Cordova has been featured previously from Book of the Month for her book, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, and that book was really well received. I personally loved it. I think I have it sitting on my shelves over there actually in my read section. So a stunning book. I love her writing style. And I know that rom-com is a little bit different than that style of book, but it doesn't mean that I'm gonna love her writing any less. I'm really hopeful that this one will get picked up. I know that this is part of a series, but I believe that each book in this series can be read as a standalone. I think Jasmine Guillory was the person that wrote the second installment in this series, so I think each one is kind of like a play on a different Disney story. My second pick for romance is going to be Kissing Kosher by Jean Meltzer. This currently has a 4.39 and about 69 reviews on Goodreads so far. This book features a main character named Avital, and she is struggling. She's dealing with severe chronic pelvic pain, and that has left her barely able to run her family's bakery, let alone to pursue any of her hobbies like photography. She needs help, and then Ethan steps in. There's only one problem. Ethan is there to steal family recipes for Lipman's mass-produced kosher baked goods. However, soon he finds that he's more interested in Avital than he is in any family recipes. So I picked this because this is not one of the big flashy names like Ali Hazelwood or Emily Henry. I would love to see them feature a romance by an author who is maybe not quite so well known. I love that this is about a Jewish couple in a kosher bakery, and I really love that this includes a character who is struggling with a chronic illness. As somebody who struggles with a chronic illness, and I, in this case, really relate to this main character because I deal with chronic debilitating pelvic pain as well. I would really love to see this. I think that we need more inclusive rep in terms of chronic illness. I think that's something that's so rarely portrayed. So I would love to see Book of the Month pick this one up. And my third pick for romance this month is going to be Taste Like Shakkar by Nisha Sharma. This currently has a 4.40 and about 208 ratings on Goodreads so far. So this is a follow-up to Dating Dr. Dill, which was previously featured by Book of the Month and was wildly popular when it was featured. This book follows two characters, Bobby, an event planner, and Bunty, a chef. They're both enlisted to help with a friend's wedding. When someone tries to sabotage the wedding, the two of them will have to team up to figure out who it is. But will their tumultuous, volatile chemistry last once the perp is caught? Again, like I said, the first book in this series was wildly popular. I think this author is really well loved, and I could see this book being at least an add-on, if not a main selection for Book of the Month for romance. And now we're going to talk about contemporary and literary fiction. So my very first pick for this category is kind of a wish fulfillment type of a pick. I'm not sure that Book of the Month is actually going to pick it, but I would sure love to see them do it. And that book is Holler by Latoya Watkins. This currently has a 4.22 and about 9 ratings on Goodreads so far. So very low buzz on this, but I have an ARC of this and I'm really enjoying it so far. I wish this was getting more hype than it is. This is a collection of short stories, and I know that already makes it a long shot, but this collection of short stories sounds so interesting. It's about community, home, betrayal, and forgiveness that touches on how race, power, and inequality map on an individual. These stories are so powerful and interesting. As I said, I have an arc of this and I am loving it so far. And in the past, Book of the Month has occasionally featured short story collections, so I'm hoping that they'll pick this one up. Then we have Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. This currently has a 4.16 and about 386 reviews on Goodreads so far. This is the story of a Korean American family whose beloved patriarch goes missing. The only witness to the disappearance is Eugene, who has a rare genetic disorder that causes him to not be able to speak. What follows is an investigation with a ticking clock and the portrait of a family whose secrets may be at the center of the disappearance. This book sounds amazing. So first of all, this would be a repeat. Angie Kim was featured previously for Miracle Creek. I believe that book did pretty well, and I feel like this one would do really well as well. It does have some thriller vibes, and I almost contemplated putting it into the thriller category because of the investigation into the disappearance, but I think that this has more to do with family relationships and reflecting on the secrets that families keep, so I thought that it would fit kind of in the contemporary fiction category. I would love to see this featured. I also have an ARC of this one, and I have not started it yet, but I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Then we have The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. This currently has a 4.49 and about 69 ratings on Goodreads so far. This book starts in 1972 in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, when workers who are building the foundation for a new development discover a skeleton. The investigation takes them back to Chicken Hill, a neighborhood where immigrant Jews and African Americans lived side by side. It drags up the history of the town's white establishment and the role that it played within the murder. This book sounds amazing. The summary that I've given you here is like really brief in comparison to the actual summary of the book. I've tried my best to kind of paraphrase it in an interesting way, but there's a lot of details that I had to leave out to make this concise. So I picked this book because I have previously read Deacon King Kong, and one of the things that I really appreciate about McBride's writing is his ability to weave a whole bunch of stories in ways that you don't expect them to go, and have them all come together for a conclusion that's very satisfying, interesting, and oftentimes unexpected. I feel like that's going to be the same sort of style that we're going to get with this book. It seems like there's going to be a lot of different stories from a lot of different community members all coming together to create a really interesting and unique story. I would love to see Book of the Month feature him. All right, so now we're going to go into the fantasy/mythology category. First up, we have Medusa's Sisters by Lauren J.A. Baer. This currently has a 4.67 and about 48 ratings on Goodreads so far. This is a retelling of Medusa's story, but via the perspective of her sisters, Steno and Euryale. They are monsters, but not monstrous, forgotten by history, diminished by poets, more than horrifying hags, sisters above all else. The reason that I picked this book is because it's a debut novel, and we know that Book of the Month likes to feature debuts. They also occasionally like to mix in some Greek mythology, and this is a really well-written Greek mythology. I love that it centers around Medusa's sisters, and I have actually read 4 different books featuring Medusa's stories this year so far, and this was probably my favorite of them. I would say it's right up there with Stoneblind by Natalie Haynes. Like, the two of them are kind of, it's hard to pick a favorite between the two. But I love that this features the sisters and their bond. It's not just about Medusa and Perseus and Athena. I recommend this story. If you like mythology, definitely put this on your reading list. And then fingers crossed that book of the month will pick it up. And then after that, we have Forged by Blood by Ehigbor Okosun. This currently has a 3.96 and about 112 ratings on Goodreads so far. This book is inspired by Nigerian mythology, so another mythology pick. We have a main character named Demi who is trying to survive a tyrannical regime, but her out of control blood magic and her mother's death send her down a path of survival and vengeance. In an attempt at vengeance, she kidnaps the Age prince named Jonas, but she ends up finding that the two of them have more in common than she initially expected. This book, again, is one of those books that has a really complex summary, so I have very much paraphrased it, but this sounds so interesting. There's all sorts of mythology and magic that are mixed into this story to create what I think is going to be an excellent fantasy. This is also a debut novel, so I would love to see Book of the Month feature it. And finally, we're going to jump into some nonfiction / memoir picks. First up, we have Pulling the Chariot of the Sun by Shane McCrae. This currently has a 4.00 and about 24 ratings on Goodreads so far. So this is a memoir of an award-winning biracial poet who is being raised by his Black father and is then kidnapped by his white supremacist grandparents. His grandparents manipulate and control him and force him to live a part of his kidnapping, keeping himself hidden. Eventually, the truth comes out, and Shane is able to reconnect with his father and build a life for himself. I have an ARC of this, I haven't read it yet, but this sounds so incredibly moving and powerful and confusing and heartbreaking and just really overall emotional. This is the kind of story that I just feel like is probably a really important story for people to read. I think that Book of the Month, when they do feature memoirs, they like to pick really emotional and complex memoirs. I would love to see them feature this, and let's be real, it's been quite a while since they featured a memoir, so this might be a good pick for them. And my final pick for August is Trail of the Lost by Andrea Lankford. This currently has a 4.20 and 65 ratings on Goodreads so far. Andrea was once a park ranger with the National Forestry Service's Law Enforcement Division. But she gets fed up with the bureaucracy and she ends up leaving. However, when 3 young men disappear along the Pacific Crest Trail, she's drawn into the investigation and she goes down a rabbit hole trying to figure out what happened to them. There's so much about this book that I really love, and I think that this has kind of a thriller, mystery, true crime investigation sort of an element that seems to be really popular with Book of the Month. Obviously, we see that thrillers do really well with Book of the Month, and this is a real-life true crime thriller, so I feel like if they're going to pick a nonfiction selection, this would be a strong choice for them. So that said, those are my selections for August 2023 Book of the Month box. I would love to hear what you think of them. Please, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and comment down below. Let me know which of these books would you like to see featured. Are there any books that I didn't mention that you think are going to make it into the box? And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.